All right. Welcome back to the Good Leader Podcast. I'm your host, John Martinez, with my co-host, Dr. Dave. I think I put on my notes, motherfucking Miller.
I saw that. That's a good emphasis.
And our topic today is going to be spring reset, cutting the dead weight. Miguel, go ahead and throw the music right there. So I was kind of looking at like April, like what our topic would be, and I kind of thought about that. Like it's kind of like spring break. People are kind of trying to lose weight, but now it's kind of like maybe changing it to like what do they need to cut out of their life? You know what I mean? Maybe
Just so kind of like a spring cleaning.
yeah, spring cleaning, kind of that kind of. So that's where I kind of came up with the topic. I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense. And
Right.
everyone's trying to cut and lose weight, but are they also losing like the bad habits maybe that got them to there in the first place?
Right.
I don't know. And so one of the first things I put it was like, what is some of the areas? And it came up with some really good areas about it, where it's like people, habits, mindset, and environment. And I think a lot of how people are like one of the things that draining, negative, or one-sided. And on the way here, before I left work, one of the guys I was talking to, and he said something I thought was really good about his mindset. Because I asked him, I said, hey, do you want to stay late and do some overtime, or do you want to come in early tomorrow morning? And he's I'll stay late. I'll do this and that. And I was like, cool. And I said, because it's been a long day, it's hot, everything like that. And he said, I used to work 6 days a week, 12-hour days. He's this is cool with me.
Right.
And that kind of showed his mindset. You know what I mean? Where when you've been through some harder shit, you're like, yeah, this is hard, but it's not.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
Exactly. I mean, having that sort of reflection of where you've been.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put it in perspective where you're at.
Yeah.
So.
And that was George of the Jungle. So I'll give George a shout out, and maybe I'll put it in the clip. So
George of the Jungle.
Yeah, George. He's from Avenal. It's out there. He's out there just. So any of the ladies, George, he said he's single and he's out there ready to slam.
Holla. Yeah.
So that was like the first thing I was talking about is like people draining, negative, or one-sided. What advice do you think, Dave, that you would have for anybody as far as people that are like that and keeping those people around? To me personally, I don't feel like I have anyone like that in my life that's kind of doing that, but I think it's like on purpose.
I think you have to be careful of any kind of negative feedback loops. Yeah. I mean, as far as let's say cutting weight or something like that. The thing is, I think when you find yourself in a position where you're purpose driven,
yeah,
you want to be able to carry some weight, you know, and you want to be of service to say other people and all that sort of stuff. But then you have to be able to determine is when they're just dead weight.
Yeah,
where it's like anything you might be able to contribute to, and they just like shoot it down, and it's like you'll never understand, and all that sort of stuff. And I have a particular person in my life right now who actually behaves that way a lot.
Yeah.
However, I still entertain the fact that maybe I can contribute to him, but.
Yeah, no, I like what you said. I think there's a definite like fine line between, and I don't want people to get the wrong message. Like it's not about not helping people, but it's like at the point if that person doesn't help themselves, like you can't drag them around until they want to like actually get up and kind of like contribute to what's going on.
Right.
And not at that point, like you said, they become dead weight and they're just slowing you down. And I think people sometimes don't know how to do that. And I think I think they confuse that term a lot of times, but they're like, keep my peace, I want my peace. And I think that sometimes they think that anybody that's around them that makes them uncomfortable is like taking away their peace, when really it's like, well, what kind of uncomfortable are they making you? Are they uncomfortable because they're telling you things that you don't want to hear that maybe you need to hear? Or are they uncomfortable because they're pushing you towards something? You know what I mean? I think sometimes people are protecting themselves from protecting themselves from having to have any accountability for whatever they do.
There's a lot of that going around. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think a lot of it is really being able to like kind of like parse out your time in like a useful fashion, to try to curtail any situation where somebody is actually just attached to your ankles at all points.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, again, you do want to be there for people and all that, because people are struggling, and you might have something that could actually change their perspective, and change their direction, so that to try to cut that out completely, it could be to the detriment of the other person. However, you do have to have some discernment. It's like, and I understand the protecting your peace part, where it's like, got to carve out some time for yourself and all this sort of stuff. Still be available as much as you can.
Yeah. And I think I see that on a lot in the, in the social media space, especially I want to say with the politics side of it and the conspiracy theories and all. And I get it. There's some valid points in what people are saying about this or that. But I do see people, and you probably see the same thing as me, where everything that is wrong with the world is contributed to their political views and constant conspiracies about everything. And it's like, okay, you may have some like good information, bad info, who knows, but at the same time, it's like, if that's all you're constantly like feeding into yourself, this that everything is, everything's messed up, there's constantly, the government's after me, you can't do this, it's kind of like, I feel like you're kind of defeating yourself, and they become everything is seems to like project that to everyone. It just comes off very negative, and you're like, how does this pertain to this? So like, this is going wrong, so somehow this has to do with us, and having some kind of issue with a foreign country, and like, you don't like the current administration, so this is why that your girlfriend broke up with you. Like it's kind of like you kind of have to at some point take care of yourself before you can help anyone else. And that's what I trip out with a lot of those people. It's like, at what point is it about you doing better and not just trying to tell everyone else what they need to do? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, watch out for the social traps. I mean, you do have some people. I mean, it's all right to have like an opinion on things and all that, but when you make like an ideology, your whole identity, I mean, then you're just a tax on people.
Yeah.
Except for like, the same other little drones that think exactly like you.
Yeah.
And so it's why, you see somebody with like blue hair and like a nose ring. It's like, I'll almost dismiss them completely. It's I already know where you're coming from. I don't need to hear it.
Yeah. It's already if it's going to be like an unproductive or unfruitful conversation, then we probably don't need that. You need to have it. So one of the next topic was habits, and I put drinking, laziness, and distractions. Like, what do you think that people could do that are having issues with that? I think Sean from last week, he had a lot of good points about how it took him over and over trying to do things and and not working out, but him being able to admit that, I think ultimately led to like his success. It seemed like, what I mean? At some point he realized, well, it's kind of on me to do this. And kind of just that it keeps not happening the way I want it to, because I'm just not following through, or I'm getting distracted by things. So I think for a lot of people, they struggle with that, but they're also the ones that contribute to that. So it's kind of,
it falls into that whole, the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So when you fall back into the same old patterns, you're going to keep going into the same places.
Yeah.
And I think a huge thing is being able to determine, say, the habits or things that you engage in that are more anesthetic, than anything else. It's like you're just trying to use it to just numb out something, because you can't adequately process anything that way, man. You may knock yourself out, with like a few drinks, or or you get high. You got a couch growing out of the back of your head, but you wake up the next day, you're still facing the same problems and the same issues.
Yeah, you're just kind of kicking the can down the road.
Yeah,
you're not really addressing it, and it's all just about choices, right? Telling people sometimes like, I'll drink water. Earlier when we were at the front desk, right? Like, I'm drinking this clear protein. Right. It's instead of drinking like a soda or something, and you were eating, your chicken and in your rice or whatever you were eating. It's all choices. We have the same choices as everyone else. We could easily be like, oh, let me grab a Pepsi. Let me grab something that's unhealthy for me. But we kind of know, we're like, well, that's not really what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes part of your lifestyle and how you eat. And you don't really think of it like you're losing out on anything. And I even think Sean actually mentioned that, where he thought he was going to lose out. Like, I'm going to miss these Oreo cookies. And you're like,
yeah, that donut really looks good.
Yeah. But I think people don't realize, when you kind of cut those things out, when you taste them again, they taste good, they're fine, but you realize like you didn't really need them like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's good practices as opposed to like, bad practices,
Yeah.
and again, it does come down to what's anesthetic,
Yeah.
so say like, you brought up, my chicken and rice or whatever, it, my options were tonight, was I needed to go out and get something, and I didn't have any of my food prep with me, whatever. So I got, a place where I could get chicken and rice or whatever.
Like, what did
or I
Bridget
could
bring
go,
for lunch?
or I could go to the burger joint and just get a gut bomb that's going to make me feel miserable. You may get like an endorphin rush from it. I don't know what they put in that fucking shit.
Yeah.
But you feel high for a second. But then the next morning, you can't peel yourself off the toilet.
Yeah, you were great eating.
Like that worked against me. Yeah,
that wasn't productive.
Yeah, exactly. So it comes to like the point of it ends up being less about the weight you carry, but how you carry it.
Yeah, no, I think you have a good point with that. And also, I think it looks like, how does your day look? Because I know me and you have talked about our days are pretty long, and to me personally, I don't know how I would do it if I was not taking care of myself. You know what I mean? If I wasn't eating right, if I wasn't working out, I'd feel like I'd be like struggling. Like I'd be like, even when I do the right thing, it still can feel days like, damn, it feels long today. Or it's like, I'm like, if I was like hungover, like, I don't even know how I would do it. I'd probably like just be, hanging on by a thread.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of, kind of how I set my tone in my day, with a workout, it's like, you get that, and then it's like it makes it actually harder to shoot yourself in the foot, as the day progresses. It's like you already started off, in a good mode. So everything else just tends to follow suit.
And I think there's always going to be those people that say, well, I do that. I'm doing that right now. I go partying this night. But at some point, guess what? It's going to catch up to you. I've seen it do it all the time. I've seen guys that were studs. They're doing they're able to do that. But at a certain point, it just catches up with them. And they're, pretty soon they're like, damn, how did I get here? It's like, well, you did it for a long time and got away with doing it. And your body you didn't feel no repercussions. But, sooner or later, we all got to pay the piper. So
absolutely. Right. Yeah.
And then the third one was going to be mindset, the excuses and the victim thinking, which I mean, that's like super, prevalent in society right now. There's I was watching a couple of videos that were kind of funny. One was like a girl who was, she went to the Marine boot camp, or I don't know if it was Marines. Yeah, maybe it was Marines. But anyway, she didn't end up making it, but then kind of went into all these reasons of why she didn't make it. And some of it had to do with it was her race. Some had to do with they were being mean to her. And this is what I try to tell people. I'm like, if you're going into those situations, expect to be uncomfortable. That's why you've signed up. You want to be uncomfortable. You're trying to become a better, newer version of yourself. And it's not going to be there. You're not going to get there by not experiencing some forms of hardship. And that's going to be, it may be people up in your face talking shit to you or doing things like that. But the reason you're going to is because whatever's going on in your life, you're not happy with in general. And then you're just like, and as soon as it gets hard, you're going to go back to like, you're going to, you're basically running away and going back to where you just came from. And then you don't progress. And then you're kind of like later on down the road, like, well, I should have just stuck it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and then, people tend to lose track of what like the purpose of something that they may be going through and what they're trying to accomplish. If they take, for example, like, basic training, it's like, you've got, a DI, down your throat, so you're yelling at the screen, you got to climb that fence, you got to climb that rope, you all that, just screaming at you, under pressure. You got to understand is like if they're prepping you for something. I mean, especially when you're taking that kind of endeavor. I mean, it's if you can't perform a task with a DI yelling at you, I mean, once you have like say enemy combatants, throwing freaking, 7.62 your direction, it's like, so you can't handle even that basic pressure, man. You're going to get yourself and somebody else killed, so it's like, these things shape you, for a purpose. And if you start making excuses of why you can't handle it, they're just like, oh, so you got no business doing it.
Yeah, and I think people kind of don't understand. It's like you're not gonna always be successful in every endeavor that you do, but it's what you take away with this. I think even if someone fails in those areas, right, but then they come back and it's like, well, nothing was my fault. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's nothing I contributed to this, and it's like, well, you sure?
Yeah.
I think we all contribute, whether we realize or not. I could have done things better. And I tell people that from my own experience of there's times where if something didn't go my way and it looked like, was the situation necessarily fair? No, but if I would have approached it differently or, not reacted as much, then it maybe would have been different. But that's kind of like lessons learned. And that's what I kind of tell people. You're going to kind of have to accept some where work, what can I have done better rather than who can I blame for my not going my way. And that leads, I think, being like bitter and vindictive and things like that, which don't help anyone.
If you first understand that is any situation, and I mean, you're playing a part in,
Yeah.
So you're not just a bystander to everything that you're engaging
Life is
in,
happening.
so it's like primary, in moving forward, I mean, you should actually, the first thing you should take stock of is like, okay, what part did I play in this? What could have I done different? All this sort of thing, and take some ownership, and if you can't do that, you can't really get away with like pointing fingers at like everything else.
Yeah.
It's like, no, the world's not out to get you.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is just a narrative you've made up in your head. You like to run with that, but that's going to keep you in a losing frame of mind.
And then the fourth thing I put was environment, no structure, messy, or no standards. The environment thing too is, I think it also pertains to a lot of the kind of everything we've been talking about, but also, what's going on around you and what are you listening to, even not just people, right? Like what music are you listening to? What podcasts are you listening to? Because a lot of what I think at least that I see, I think, because, since we've been doing our podcast, like pay attention into the podcast space, a lot of it is like geared towards negativity and bullshit. Like a lot of it, like, there's good stuff out there where people are talking about actual practical, but there's a lot of guys with, this is the way I look at it from, and that's why I'm not saying it by their names or to like, oh, I want people just to say like, we're just trying to get attention. What it is their platform is bigger. Their resources are greater. They make, mounds of money doing it, but everything they spill is negative. So it's kind of like, if you're that successful, but all you have to say is negative, what is the person who's working and trying to develop something supposed to think? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? What example are you setting? You know what I mean?
What kind of next step are you giving them?
Yeah.
Because you just go like, man, everything's horrible. It's falling apart.
Yeah.
It sucks. There's nothing you can do about it. Good night. Talk to you tomorrow. You're just like,
yeah.
What?
I'm a millionaire and I'm powerless.
Right.
Exactly. Like and that's the way I think their message comes across. That's why a lot of the guys that I used to listen to, I don't listen to them anymore, because it went from good context and trying to, stories of guys overcoming and their experiences and how that's developed them as, men or warriors or dads, whatever it may be, to now it's like, let's talk about every conspiracy theory there is. Let's talk about how I don't agree with these politics. Let's talk about how we're fucked. Let's talk about this and that. Like, and you're like, okay, but what's the solution? And if there is all these problems, you with all the resources and all the and the exposure, what are you doing other than talking about it?
Well,
who does that help? It doesn't help anyone.
Right.
Because I put that on us too, right? If we ever got to a point where we were like that, I would expect we're going to do something like, start some kind of men's group or foundation or something that we're interested in doing and say, this is what we're doing. This is where we see a problem and this is what we're trying to do to solve it. Not just like, hey, let's sit there and let's bitch about it for, an hour. Everyone will tune in and watch us cry about.
And then, you do have to address it as, hey, maybe there's some things that you actually can't do anything about.
Yeah.
But what are the things that you can do something about?
Yeah.
You can always do something that's going to better yourself, and that actually in the end leaves you more prepared for the things that, it's like you are powerless over.
Yeah.
So I even focus in that track, and it's like, all these political and social issues, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. They suck and all this, but how is this really affecting your life and you moving forward and making the most of yourself?
And that's what I see. A lot of it, if you look at you look at a lot of the stuff where you see people with like the Epstein files or things like that. But then when you see men or kids or women getting assaulted in the street, what do people do? They start recording. I'm like, so you're talking about victims that are being victimized, but when you're given the opportunity to do something, what do you do about it?
Yeah.
nothing. You whip your phone out and you record it. You know, like
Flip it around. Can you believe this is happening?
Yeah, like,
Nobody's doing anything about it. It's
yeah.
like,
And it's like if you
look at
really
you,
want to
asshole.
change, if you really want to change in the world, if every man and woman who thinks that way, like, hey, these things are wrong, decided to do something about it, we outnumber bad people. I'm pretty sure of that, right?
Yeah.
But when you choose to just sit back and do absolutely nothing and say, I wonder who's going to do something about it, it's like, then you're just a spectator. You know what I mean? You have no skin in the game. You don't do anything about it, and you're just talking. And that's what I see a lot of in social media. It's a lot of talk. It's a lot of like, and it's like, okay, but what do you do? If if you feel like you could lead better in the military, go join the military. If you think you could be better in politics, go become a politician. If you think that you can run, do a podcast better, then go do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you tell them, they're like, oh, well, I just want to complain. Okay, then you're just shut up. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, some of the most damaging, things ever done has all been done off of like the back of somebody saying, somebody's got to do something. It's like, well, you just abdicated your power in the situation. It's like, so you're throwing at somebody else's. Somebody's got to do something. They make a law or, some kind of ordinance, and then it just compiles.
Yeah, it just keeps going. It just keeps continuing.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about how do we cut the dead weight and auditing your life? Like, so we know that it could be those 4 areas of your life, and what drains you, what habits are holding you back, and what are you tolerating? Or is there any other suggestions that you feel like maybe when you were changing things in your life that helped you kind of focus on the road ahead for yourself when things weren't going your way? Because I think people don't understand that either. Like, not everything is going to happen overnight, and not everything is going to always go your way. And are you going to revert back to doing the things that you said you weren't going to do when they don't go your way? Are you going to continue going ahead? You know what I mean?
Sometimes you do have to, start from as near zero as possible. You strip everything down to its basics, and then build from that foundation. For me, I mean, it's always been the one thing I could always fall back on is some kind of like physical activity. My head's swimming. The things are coming at you from like a million different directions.
Yeah.
Drop and do some push-ups.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your mind's focused. You're centered. Or you go out for like a run or something like that. Or something like that has always offered clear thinking for me.
Yeah, action.
Yeah. So it is. Yeah, it is actually, you're taking action on something.
Yeah.
And that actually it just presents solutions to other issues.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of go back to, like, not being just a spectator, right? If you're watching social media news and you see bad things happening, right? And as a man or a woman, and you feel like, man, I really think things need to be done about that. So our advice to you and my advice to you would be to go, okay, one is like start preparing yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually, right? Like go physically, go work out. If you're not working out, what are you going to stop? Absolutely fucking nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Spiritually, if you don't believe in shit, then what message are you preaching?
Yeah.
And where is your brain at? Like, how are you? What are you up on the topic that you're actually trying to stop or push? Are you just going off what everyone is telling you it is? You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, I think, they just go off of whatever social media is telling them like to go. You know what I mean? And that's just like, they're like, and whatever it tells them, that must be the gospel truth.
Yeah.
And it's not always like that, where it's like, okay, well, be up on those topics so that when you do meet people or other like-minded people, that at least you have some kind of legs to stand on to kind of say, hey, this is what I'm about, this is how I present myself, and this is what I'm trying to do. And I think that will go a lot farther than it's, just kind of saying, like, who's going to do this? Who's going to help? Who's going to do something?
Right. Well, and it's also, if you're going to actually kind of, profess some kind of standards, again, be an example of it. I mean, you got to actually, you kind of build like, credentials of like those of it, if you're going to stand for something, you stand for it.
Yeah.
You don't just like spout it out. It's like, so I think everybody should be like this, don't look at me. Yeah. I'm not going to live that, it's like, but everybody else has got to, everyone got to march in line.
Yeah.
So, well, now you're just ridiculous.
Yeah. And then I put in one of the things is like, because a lot of times people are like, well, they get being dangerous, and what does that, encompass for us, right? So I put, it means to lead, it means to protect, it means to execute, and it means to endure. Yeah. So it's like, to lead, it means that could be anything, whether it could be at work, it could be in your life, it could be in your relationship, it could be, I don't know, you're the leader, you're keep teaching your kids, baseball team. It's the same thing. You're being a leader. You're leading in some type of way in your life. And the only way to become a good leader, to me, is you have to do it. You're not going to start and just knowing how to do it. You're going to have to do some sets and reps and figure things out. And how do I get people to follow me, not just because of your position, but willingly sometimes, you know what I mean, to come along with what you're doing.
Yeah.
The protect part is just being, to me, that goes back to being physically capable, but also like, you can't just be like, I think you always talk about this, be a meathead and be like, oh, I think I'm gonna protect, you know what I mean? You're like, what are you actually like, what's your experience in to actually protect someone? Because not everyone's just gonna leave someone alone because you think you're big.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I'm flexing on you. That's gonna be like, that's
right. Yeah, you're posing in the mirror, right?
Yeah. It's not the same. I love working out, but working out is not the same as being able to actually protect people. They're two different. They're part of the overall encompassing, but they're not the same.
The physical capability is one thing, and knowing how to use it is something completely different.
And then the executing part, to me, I look at that is, I see people that are sometimes locked into certain parts of their life, like they're really good at doing something, like they're, we'll say the gym, for like they're locked into it. They can eat perfect. And I said, okay, but what other parts of life can you actually execute in besides just what you like doing? Do you treat your job the same? Do you execute the same way in your job and you know what I mean? I think, because to me, I've always, I don't want to just be able to execute in only one part of my life. I want to be able to kind of every part of my life be able to do, some good. And then also to adjust if I'm not doing good. It's like, okay, I'm just not going my way. I need to figure out a way to then make things better and make those micro adjustments.
A lot of it does just fall on the individual.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have it within you, whether you know it or not. I mean, to make the changes that can actually affect your situation. No matter what it seems it could be against you, you can do something that's going to make your tomorrow better.
And the last one was to endure, because basically, and I think that's important, because understand, like, all these things don't happen overnight. You don't become the person you are overnight. Me and one of the guys here were talking the other night, and it was funny because he brought it up. I didn't, but he talked about, we've seen each other here working out at night. He brought up about, we were talking about, we were both doing chest day that day. And then he talked about, he was from here, and that he brought it up about being Christian. And I was like, yeah, I'm Christian too. We were talking about that. And he was saying the same thing that I said. He's all, man, I just noticed a lot with these young kids, just very, very like lost. Oh, they're doing good things sometimes, like they're working out and doing things like that, but they're also kind of mimicking some of the bad behaviors of, and people don't have to agree, but this is my personal opinion. If you're younger and you're taking, a TRT or testosterone, and you're like fucking 18 years old, like what are you doing? You know what I mean?
You don't even need that shortcut.
You don't need it. You're hurting yourself in the long run. Yeah. And anyone that's telling you to do that, whether they be other podcasts or their influencers, they're just leading you down a road of destruction. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not doing anything so me and him are kind of talking about that. And I think that's where it's like, I think the message that me and you kind of put out, that how we end up meeting these people that randomly, it's like, oh, I align with that. I align with what you're saying. And I think what people have to understand, it's not going to always be flashy. Right. Everyone I ever met that's kind of like in the way that we are is not flashy. They're not overly looking for attention. They're basically, because they're too busy doing what they have to do. I don't think people understand that. Like when you're actually out there and you're like doing no one is out here like flashing money, dancing around looking stupid.
Yeah.
Where everyone's too busy actually working and doing other stuff. And one of the guys I work with, he was, he's doing things to help himself become a better like speech giver. Right. Things like that, right? But he's keeping that to himself. Only me and him really talk about that. And it's like, and so it's cool to me, like, oh, that's cool. that's like you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, but to do something that's better for yourself. But it's not like they're like, hey, look at me, I'm doing. And I don't think they realize a lot of guys that are, that's what they do, or at least people to me that are productive, they're usually doing it within just their own little space, and sometimes they don't tell anyone, they just do it,
Right.
and it's just to make themselves better, and that's a win to me.
But a lot of times, even something like that, being a better speech giver, so I mean, that's something of value. I mean, it makes yourself better, but can also be used to make somebody else better.
I want to make him come on, your podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Use your words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How we doing on time, Miguel?
5 more minutes.
Okay, 5 more minutes. Yeah, that was kind of the big thing for like today. I think for this month of April, because that's like what I was thinking about. Because and I know with all the guests we had, like with Shane and was Alexa supposed to come next week? Is it?
Yeah, she's looking into her schedule. Hopefully, we'll have her on next week.
Hopefully, tell her we put her on the spot here. She wants a break dance right here, or do her. What is it?
I don't know. Yeah, she might want to grapple with us. I don't. So you should come in here and
just a triangle choke.
Just kick our ass for the hell of it. That's the podcast.
Just record this, Miguel.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop.
Is there any other stuff going on with the gym you want to put out there? I know we're doing the recovery.
So the recovery center is going well. I was starting to train people on hygiene.
Yeah.
Because, it was crazy. Just, there's people who think that the cold plunge is a bathtub,
I didn't take a shower last night. Is it right if I use the cold plunge?
Right. So we come up with some rules, educating people on it. And they're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. That's why I have to think of it, But that's good. That's going along well. So our recovery center is a hit.
Yeah.
As far as anything else, I mean, I know that you and I have talked about, and I've passed it up to ownership about doing a good and dangerous, class at least like once a week.
Yeah.
And get some workouts in, maybe some hero wads.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That would be a lot of fun. Get that going.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. It's kind of unfortunate, another gym closed down in the area.
Which gym?
The Iron Jungle.
I heard about that. I never been. Is it the one that had the green walls?
Yes.
That's right. It was probably because of those walls. That's what my. I've seen the pictures, and those are like I don't know what.
I mean, you feel bad for like the members, who are loyal to the place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, when you find a place that you're loyal to,
Yeah.
But the thing is we've been absorbing a lot of them here, which is great for us.
Yeah.
And then they're coming in and they're like, I never knew there was a gym like this, and they're like, man, we're so glad to be here.
Yeah.
So that's definitely helping. We're
Still got plenty of room.
yes, we do.
Dave says sign up, sign your. He wanted to do this thing called extreme motivation, where we talk about like we say, get your fat Dorito ass into the gym.
Wipe the Cheetos dust off your chin. Yeah.
Yep, and get to the gym. And that's what we're gonna call it, extreme motivation.
Right. Exactly.
I think one suggestion for the recovery center is I think you guys just have a hose outside and hose people off before they go into the cold plunge.
Yeah, a line straight to the water plug.
Just stand outside on the sidewalk and just hose them off, and then
right.
and then they go into the recovery center.
Right. Yeah.
Like a car wash.
Like pressure washer.
Steve, if you
Take
that,
the first 2 layers of skin right off too, so that way that's not going to be sitting in the tub now.
Steve's gonna be like, "That's a great idea."
It'd be entertaining to say the least, man. That'd be a good commercial.
All right, so like they talked about, hopefully we get with the class. I think always the big goal is to always have like the podcast and eventually do some type of live event. I saw something, and I want to give them credit because it was not something that that we just came up with the idea with. But I know I think I was talking about where it's like God's guns and grappling. I think that was they're called a dangerous but good. They're a little bit more faith-based than us a little bit.
Right.
But I like that concept, and I think that's ultimately the goal, is to kind of create these pods maybe in different cities of guys that are doing those type of things, working out, training, believe in something, and then are helping each other, and all doing it under the guise of like, hey, we're just trying to become better men, and not trying to always like, hey, we're trying to push some kind of hidden agenda or product or something, anything on you. I think that's what kind of makes us a little bit different. If you want to like join us or be part of us, we're not really making people like, hey, you gotta, let me pay me to tell you. It's like a tell you why you should join.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I want people to kind of come willingly to us and be part of what we're doing. And I think that's ultimately will lead us to being successful.
It's also letting them know it's like, hey, it's not about us,
Yeah.
really dictating anything to you. Hey, you have something to bring to the table too.
Yeah,
Great. We want it.
definitely. And then EZF Media for filming us, Miguel all the time. Follow us on all our platforms. Miguel can put it up on the video. And I think that's pretty much the big thing. Support us at goodleader.shop. We always have the best merchandise. And always to be transparent with people sometimes about what the prices of shirts and that. Everything is fucking expensive right now. That's the only thing I could tell people. And they're like, the only other thing for me to do, and I don't want to do it, and I haven't done it, is I tell people, I'm like, yeah, we could buy cheap shirts, throw some logos on them,
Right.
and then, but I said, but I wouldn't feel comfortable. Me personally, when I bought from other brands and they've done that, even when I like the brand, I'm just like, I would rather have paid more, be able to wear this shirt than be like, yeah, I got it, but I don't even want to wear this shit.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So that's just so people are aware of that. And me and Dave are still in the process of we're gonna come out with those Gain Station shirts.
Game station crossover.
Yeah, Gain Station
Engagers,
crossover
Game
shirts.
Station, yeah.
That'll probably be like a limited run of shirts. So we'll probably just have them here, and so you have to get them the physical right here at the gym or something like that.
There we
So
go.
that'll be pretty badass.
Yeah.
And Miguel's gonna get Good and Dangerous tattooed on his back. Also, to rep.
Lower back.
Lower
back.
back. Those
Like
tramp
a-
stamp?
like a tramp
Nice.
stamp.
All right. That's a good touch.
All right, that's it. Shit, we'll wrap it up right there.